Hurricane Erin is making its closest pass to the East Coast today. Winds are whipping and massive waves are hitting the shoreline as the storm barrels north in the Atlantic. Erin is not expected to make landfall, but the outer banks of the system, well, they're still packing a punch. Here's a closer look at the conditions in North Carolina. At least 2 beachfront homes almost collapsed as waves pounded the outer banks. You can see that in this video here. CBS News meteorologist Rob Marciano is following the storm from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
Well, after a week of waiting and watching, today's a day where Hurricane Erin makes its closest approach to the U.S. And we've already seen that really about an hour or two ago. That's when the winds were the most fierce. That's when we saw tropical storm force winds. We're still getting gusts, obviously, and with the sea spray and some of the salt, it's not that fun. It wouldn't be fun to be out in that ocean, that's for sure. Heavy surf advisory, rip currents are real bad. And obviously, this is damaging surf. Right now, we're coming up on low tide. High tide, the water is much higher. High tide is what we're worried about as far as breaking through some of these sand dunes, potentially overwashing some of the roadways. We haven't seen many reports of that. That's good news there. No reports of power outages, even though we have seen wind gusts to tropical storm force. And what we're hearing in the southern part of the Cape, on Cape Hatteras, Buxton, that area, that's really susceptible to seeing some damage. Yes, they have seen some damage in the way of some overwash in some of their structures, but no structures have been swallowed up by the ocean yet, and that would be a good thing if we can get through this storm without that happening. A couple of more hours of dicey wind and waves certainly here on the Outer Banks, and then all this waves, they go up into the Jersey Shore, Long Island, southern New England, and that's through tomorrow, even though the center of this thing will be well offshore and pulling away from the U.S. We're just grateful that this one, at least, has not made a direct hit. We can only hope for more of that as we head into the peak of hurricane season. Back to you.
Thank you, Rob. Let's take a look at Virginia Beach right now. Hurricane Erin already making its way past that state. Meteorologist Jessica Birch joins us now with more on where the system heads next, Jess.
Okay, well, there is some relief in sight. I mean, heading into the coming days, this Category 2 hurricane still, Hurricane Erin, will continue to push off into the east, no longer impacting the continental U.S. into the coming days. However, this did bring a lot of issues along those coastal communities. I mean, storm surge, rip currents, widespread, a lot of dangerous surf just from this system that's still well offshore right now. On top of that, we saw wind gusts forecasted anywhere up to around 45 to 60 miles per hour just along those coastlines. That's the reason why the National Weather Service issued tropical storm warnings all along the East Coast, anywhere from Virginia all the way down into North Carolina too. But take a look behind me. I want to show you some of the impacts that we're still seeing. Of course, life-threatening rip currents are still possible. And as we head into the afternoon hours today, those tropical storm warnings remain in effect. Storm surge can get anywhere up to around 4 feet high as this hurricane continues to billow its way out into the east, still sitting at a Category 2 status with max sustained winds at the center up to around 100 miles per hour. Now, keep in mind, this has been an explosive storm system. Just earlier this week, actually over the weekend, it went from a Category 1 to a Category 5 within the matter of only 12 hours. And now, as we keep a close eye on the storm system, it continues to move offshore into the coming days. Well, even further offshore, I should say. And we're continuing to keep a close eye on the impacts all along that coastline. We have wind gust forecast anywhere up to around 50 miles per hour today, all along that coast, but that's going to start decaying as we head into the coming days. I'll have more on this in a bit. For now, back to you, Muga.
But turning now to Hurricane Erin, which is creating dangerous conditions on the East Coast. The Category 2 storm is currently well offshore and moving away from the coastline. But officials in several states are not taking any chances, given that Erin is churning up life-threatening rip currents and damaging winds that extend hundreds of miles from its center. CBS News reporter Christine Sloan joins us from Manasquan, New Jersey. Christine, it looks very windy out there. What are the conditions like right now and some of the warnings that you're hearing from officials?
Jerica, it is very windy out here, and behind me you can see those waves crashing into the rocks here at Manasquan Inlet Beach down the Jersey Shore. Some of these waves could be as high as 15 feet today. Now, the beach is pretty much empty, but there are some people out here taking photos of these massive waves. But here in Manasquan and at many Jersey Shore beaches, there is a ban on swimming in the ocean. Erin is creating life-threatening rip currents, rough surf, and as you said, gusty winds. You would normally see boats out here, but none to be found today. Surfers are even staying out of the water. We could also see some coastal flooding down the Jersey Shore. And later this evening at high tide is when we'll find out if some of these communities down the Jersey Shore could see some water in their communities, Jerica.
Amazing, Christine, to see the impact that can have so far away from the eye of the storm. Christine Sloan, thank you.
We begin with Hurricane Erin, the storm triggering strong winds and dangerous surf as it churns right off the East Coast. Nearly 40 million people are under flood alerts. North Carolina's Outer Banks is bracing for the next high tide tonight, which could bring more coastal flooding. So let's bring in meteorologist Darren Peck joining me now as we're going on air as we speak. This is actually the closest the storm is going to get, bringing high surf and some risks. So take us through it right now.
The high surf would be a big one. Wind for anybody near the coast. And from the standpoint of having what was just several days ago, a Category 5 hurricane. Which is, at this point, as you said this just a moment ago, this is the moment where this storm that we've been watching and wringing our hands over for the last week, this is the moment when it is as close to the U.S. coast as it's going to get. So what we're seeing from the worst of this are people need to be very mindful near the coastline. There's going to be some coastal flooding for places that we would typically always see in storms like this. Cape Hatteras, those Outer Banks in the Carolinas. But I want to talk about one other aspect of this. So I'm going to step over here, Juliet. We'll check in with you in a bit. If you take a look at what this storm looks like on the map, here's where it is at its closest. And even though it is starting to pull away from the East Coast, we still have several days where we need to stay on top of this. Because if you visualize the wave heights, and we'll play this now in a forecast that take it from where it was this morning and advance it through the next couple of days, the worst of the wave heights have just passed the Carolinas, really within about the last few hours. But you've got to get through Saturday before the last of the impacts from Erin's impact on waves and wind and risk at the beach passes. I just want you to see where we are by the time we get to Saturday. This is taking us for the forecast to Saturday. Sure, the storm's gone and it's decaying. The colors out here show you where the wave energy, especially towards the eastern seaboard, is still enough of a concern. I'll just leave you with this notion on the map. The parts of the coastline that are all colored here, when we start taking a look at where high surf advisories and rip currents are major concerns, those warnings stay on this map until Saturday night up here. There is still a high surf advisory until Saturday night for Long Island. Don't let your guard down, even if you're on the far northeast coast. The wave impacts will be felt for a few days from this. All right, Juliet, back to you.
Good information. Now I want to go to CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen joining us live at Jones Beach, New York. Tom, I don't see you in our shot right now. Maybe you'll come through, but what is the latest there?
Hey there, Juliet. Well, basically, I'm standing where there should be a beach here, and there should be a beach for some stretch of this land. But instead, we are standing in about 2 to 3 feet of water. It goes up to my mid-thigh. I'm about 6 feet tall. It is up to my mid-thigh. And so what you're seeing is some coastal flooding, some preliminary coastal flooding already from this storm that is hundreds of miles off the coast. So, you know, that is from waves that are 8 to 12 feet currently, but it's only going to get more intense as the night goes on. We are expecting wave advisories are expecting waves to reach 12 to 16 feet. So this is not surf that you really want to get into, even if you're a strong swimmer. Nonetheless, we have seen people here and there walking along the beach. Plenty of lifeguards here. The community of Jones Beach is preparing for what could be some more intense flooding than what we're seeing right now. What they've done is they've built up sand dunes. They have also turned over some of the lifeguard stands, things like that, to prepare for this. Now, there aren't any evacuation orders, as we previously heard. There are not any evacuation orders just yet, but this flooding is going to impact areas that are flood prone, like these low-lying areas where I am. The water is inevitably only going to get higher as the tide gets higher as well, which will happen, of course, overnight. That's when high tide is expected to come in. And so if you compound that with the 12 to 16 foot waves that we could be seeing along the shoreline, this whole community, which also was hit very hard by Superstorm Sandy. A lot of people we've spoken to say that this is reminiscent of that to a certain degree. It's nowhere near as severe as Superstorm Sandy, but they are recalling memories from that, people we've spoken to on the ground here, because they say they have not seen this coastline like this since then. So there is the potential for more intense flooding to happen along these flood prone areas. We're going to be following that very closely, Juliet.
Yeah, thank you for that. perspective there, because where you're standing, you're kind of right knee deep in the waters there that's covering the park benches and where people would normally walk around. We can't help but hear the wind in that area. Can you describe kind of what it's like where you are?
Yeah, it's very gusty, more so than your typical day on the beach. I want you to see, you can see some of the waves that are cresting over here, occasionally at least. But what you're seeing is that the wind is whipping the white caps. They are actually flying sideways instead of crashing down like your normal wave. And that is another thing that I want to bring up here. We've spoken to several lifeguards who have been overseeing this area. They are warning people if they are trying to get in the water, primarily surfers, for instance, because a lot of surfers would say that this is a surfer's dream here on coastal New York. They are saying that the water is actually has a side current that is pushing sideways. So it's a strong current. If you get in the water, you are not going to stay directly where you got in for very long. So they are recommending not getting in the water, even for the most experienced of swimmers. And once again, Juliet, as those higher waves come in, that means that more of these storm-like conditions will be coming here as well. And that means stronger winds and stronger gusts blowing through this area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that there aren't any evacuation orders right now. So I'm wondering, does that still give people the warning to stay away from the water? That's the danger zone right now.
Oh, absolutely. And you're exactly right. People should not take the fact that there aren't any evacuation orders lightly here. This is a situation that can become very dangerous for people if they try to get in the water. There's even a current in essentially what I'm standing in right now, a tidal pool, although it is not a strong current right now. But there have been people who are very curious. You know, they're seeing these large waves off in the distance. Really, Juliet, where I'm standing, there is no real easy way to get to the beach right there. This is all supposed to be sand, but this is now swallowed by the coastal flooding that we're seeing here. So there's no real easy way to get there. But nonetheless, that hasn't deterred everyone. There have been some people who have been walking through this water and going to the beach to see it for themselves. So there's a level of curiosity here. I think, though, that I'll reference Superstorm Sandy once again. A lot of people here, that is still fresh in their minds, even if it was 13 years ago that struck. So I think they are taking this pretty seriously here, and hopefully they will take it even more seriously as the night goes on. Juliet.
Tom, thank you for your reporting and being out there in it for us. Appreciate it.
We are quite naturally tracking Hurricane Erin tonight. The storm is making its presence known, and that's putting it mildly in Virginia and North Carolina as it makes its way north. The hurricane's projected path will keep its strongest winds, we are told, offshore. Rob Marciano is tracking the storm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Rob, great to have you. I see you buffeted by the winds. What can you tell us?
Yeah, the winds are pretty intense. We're out on a pier, so we're obviously a little bit more exposed, but it really gives you a good vantage point of what this surf is like here at Virginia Beach. We spent much of the past few days on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which certainly got the worst of the waves and the wind. It was the closest point to which it was the center of Erin, when Erin was the closest to the U.S., which was earlier this morning. It is slowly beginning to pull away. That's the good news. Bad news is it's such a big storm. The waves propagating out from it are going to continue to pepper this coastline for the next several days, and not just the Carolinas and the mid-Atlantic, but all the way up into southern New England, and we're certainly going to see that be the case. So we've seen some damage across parts of the Outer Banks. We certainly have seen a lot of coastal flooding, and this wind continues to buffer this area. Not a whole lot major as far as wind damage, because we haven't seen much more over tropical storm force. We didn't expect to, and because of that, we haven't seen much in the way of power outages. So it's really just a lot of tourism disrupted and folks coming out to safely look at these impressive waves.
Rob, very quickly, this is a big holiday weekend approaching, and if you're in the water, even though it doesn't look scary, it is, and you should not do it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most of these beaches are completely shut down. But the lifeguards are on duty, not to save lives, but to get people out of the water if they even try to get in it. So, yes, until the lifeguards and the authorities say it's safe to go in, everybody, for the most part, has been staying out, Major.
Excellent. Rob Marciano, Virginia Beach, Virginia, thanks so very much.
Hurricane Erin is still whipping up the weather along the northeast coast. The threat of 17-foot waves and 50-mile-an-hour winds prompted the governor of New Jersey to declare a state of emergency and to declare, because of rip currents, don't go in the water. Many beaches in the New York City area are also closed for swimming. The hurricane hit North Carolina's Outer Banks with powerful gusts and large swells. Tonight, the storm is pulling away from the East Coast and heading into the Atlantic. Meteorologist Rob Marciano leads us off from Virginia Beach. How are the conditions there, Rob?
Oh, John, the winds are still ripping here along the coastline, even with Erin over 350 miles away. That huge wind field continues to agitate the ocean here, and this surf has just been relentlessly punishing the eastern seaboard. The western edge of Hurricane Erin delivering coastal flooding and strong winds to the shores of North Carolina, hours before the massive storm finally began to move away from the U.S. Seaside homes enduring the onslaught of ocean water. And despite days spent shoring up important arteries like Highway 12, state transportation authorities kept bridges closed to ensure they'd withstand the weather.
We are worried about the next high tide cycle tonight and the tide cycle after that in the morning.
5 different species of sea turtles visit or nest on the Outer Banks. And this video shows powerful waves pushing through the habitats designed to protect them. And as waves pounded the shores of Virginia Beach, Jeremy Williams and his family tried to make the best out of the bad weather.
Know before you go, right?
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Exactly.
35 million people are under coastal flood advisories up and down the East Coast. Tom Hansen is on New York's Long Island, where we're seeing extreme surf conditions.
Even with Erin more than 200 miles offshore, we are still feeling its impacts here at Jones Beach. Take a look behind me. This is what should be a sand walkway, but instead it has been swallowed by coastal flooding from those waves that are reaching as high as 10 feet. And when you factor in high tide and waves that could be as high as 16 feet overnight, this floodwater is expected to rise.
Back in the Carolinas, waves climbed over 15 feet, and surfers from across the region were flocking to the beach to ride the swell.
We have some neighbors that are big surfers, and they said to come out and check out the waves, so we wanted to bring the kids out and kind of see that and experience it.
Well, we haven't seen any surfers either in Kitty Hawk or here in Virginia Beach. I mean, these waves and these swells are just too big, and I'm told it's not fun and it's dangerous. Now, there are lifeguards on duty, but not to rescue people, but to make sure that people don't even get into the water. It's so rough here, and will continue to be in the next couple of days. John?
Rob Marciano, thank you. And now we turn to Lonnie Quinn, who joins us to tell us what we can expect from this storm and maybe some other weather.
Okay, you betcha. So the good news to report on Erin. From this point forward, it's getting farther and farther out to sea. All right, it's made its closest pass. It's also in the process of weakening. When you look at a satellite image and you see all those bright colors, the reds, the yellows, the oranges, where you don't see the bright color, that is the storm ingesting some dry air, and that will erode the storm. This is a weakening storm. It's kind of falling apart. It's a low-grade Cat 2, Cat 1 overnight, and downgraded as we push on from there. The story has been the waves, and that did play out. That's certainly verified. Some of the wave heights didn't max out at that big number that we thought we might see, but certainly they were there for tomorrow. It's not entirely gone, so for the eastern seaboard, and I'm talking about basically the northeast, I'd stay out of the water tomorrow. But look at this, good news for Saturday. That's a key day. This weekend, it's good to go back in the water, and a lot of folk getting their last weekend in before school starts, so have at that. All right, I do want to talk about that other story, and here it is. It's the West Coast heat. Anywhere, top to bottom, Portland, Oregon, going all the way down to Lancaster, California, 100 degrees or hotter for everybody out there. Las Vegas hits 110 tomorrow, and I know you folks in Vegas are used to big-time heat. 110, you've been hotter this summer, but 110 for tomorrow, that does set a record for the day. And that's the very latest from here in the weather department. It's all yours, John.
Wet on one coast, scorching on another. Lonnie Quinn, thank you. Right.